Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I am going to be talking about attachments in Microsoft Forms again. I did a video about this a couple of weeks ago and somebody got in touch with me. They were having trouble with a form that had 27 file upload fields and they were having trouble replicating the flow that I made. While I was chatting to them, I thought to myself, this whole thing is just a bit of a pain in the ass, these form attachments. And to deal with 27 of them was going to make a flow that was just so long. So in this video, I'm going to show you what I think is the ultimate method of dealing with attachments from Microsoft Forms. It is better because it works no matter how many form upload fields you've got. It will just dynamically select those attachments and it will put them all into one neat array. It deals with all that stringified JSON data that we'll see when we get into the demonstration in a minute. And it's just slick, really. So what we've got here is a form, as you can see, and it's got 1, 2, 3 fields for uploading files. So let's just, no, we won't put a response in yet. Let's make a flow first. So we'll go over to flow and we'll create an instant cloud flow. And we'll just skip all that stuff actually. So the first thing that I'm going to do is switch from the new designer back to the old one. I'm not in love with the new one yet, but hopefully I will be. So let's pick form. When a new response is submitted, and we'll grab our form name, our attachment demo. And then we'll do get response details and pick the same form and take the response ID from when a response is submitted. So I'm just going to save it there as my start and then I will upload. Okay, so we've got that saved. Let's do a collect responses and give ourselves some test data. And I'll upload a file on the first question. And I'll upload a file to the second one. And I'll leave the third one empty, and for my other question, I'll pick option 1. So that should be enough to trigger our flow. And there we can see it's executed 3 seconds ago. So let's go in and see what we've got. And I'll show you why I've sort of re-engineered this. So let's grab that. I've just clicked on show raw outputs so we can get the JSON that's come back from that get response details action, and let's stick it into Notepad. So the first thing that we can see is that the attachment questions are just like strings, just like the other questions. So there's no way to distinguish between a question that has an attachment or just a question that contains text. Also, these key value pairs, these key names are just, they're not easy to work with, they're just these random IDs. And then the attachment data itself is stored as stringified JSON. So we need a way to work with that, but we've got two JSON arrays that have both been stringified. So we want to get to a method where we can bring all those arrays together and find from here all of the key value pairs that contain attachments, and just for now ignore those ones that don't. So that's going to be our first step. So we are going to use an expression called XPath to do that. And when I do this, first of all, I'll do it simply and then we'll remove some of the extra steps afterwards. But there's an advantage to adding a few extra steps for readability so that we can see the inputs and the outputs. So my first step is going to be called XML prep, and I am just going to get the JSON output in a state where we can work with it easily. So I've got open and close curly brackets. I'm going to call my key name root, and then I'm going to put in the body of the get response details. So that's just going to rejig the JSON for us. I'm doing another new compose step. I'm going to call this one XML. And this one will simply just convert the output of XML prep into XML. So let's test that again and see our output from the XML step. Okay, here's our XML. I'm going to go into this pretty printer. I'm going to paste the, wrong one. I'll paste the XML in here and copy it from here. And then I'm going to go to this website. Whoa. I'm going to go to this website, XPath, and I'm going to copy the XML into there. So then I need to type an XPath query. I've already got this prepared, but selecting root would select everything from there, and then I'm going to go star so that I get down to each of the individual elements, nodes, and then I can do a query which I've already got stored over here, which I'll explain. So this XPath query will go to the root element, and then it will go to every node in that element, every field. And then it's going to filter it for ones that contain the text drive ID and the text reference ID. And as you can see, it's highlighted these two. And so our output is going to be an array of all the fields from the form that contain attachments. So let's run that XPath query in Power Automate now. Okay, let's go and edit. And now let's do a compose action again. And we are going to do XPath. And we use our XML. And then we'll put our XPath query in there. And we'll rename this one XPath. So let's have a look at what that gives us back. Check it worked. Okay, so our XPath query gives us an array. And that array contains two stringified JSON arrays. Now, we don't want an array of stringified arrays. We want an array of, just a regular array of all of the form attachments. Now, because the output of that XPath expression is an array, it means we can use it on the select action. So I'm going to take this XPath query, now that we know it works, and delete this. And I am going to go into the select action. I'm going to use that as the source of the data for the select. So now I'm going to switch into text mode. And what I want to do for each of those entries is I'm going to leave them as strings for now, but I want to chop off the first opening square bracket and the last opening square bracket, because I want to remake that into an array myself. So I am going to use the expression slice. I'm going to go from character 1, because 0 would be that opening square character. And then I am going to do sub length item and then comma 1. So this is going to take 1 off of the end of the string for me, hopefully. And then I will do a compose action underneath. And I will call this all attachments. And what I want to do is join the output of the select with a comma. And that will join all of those strings together with a comma, and it'll almost be ready to turn back into JSON. But I need to put a opening square bracket in again, and I need to put a closing square bracket on. So once I've done that, then I can wrap that whole thing inside the JSON expression to turn all of that stuff back into a single array of JSON goodness that will contain all the information about the array, all the information about the form attachments, I mean. So it probably won't work, but let's have a look. And it didn't work. So let's see. Slice, the template expects its first parameter to be of type string. The value provided is a type integer. Let's have a look what I did wrong. I didn't put actually in the thing that I was supposed to be slicing. So I'll put item in there. And that should now work. All right, our slice worked. You can see we started off with the opening square bracket there and the closing square bracket there. And what we ended up with, still a stringified JSON, but the square brackets are gone. Now our all attachments is a single array of all of the attachments. That's handy. So we can use that all attachments array to get the file content for everything in those attachments, and then we can use that to upload the data to a SharePoint list or a SharePoint list and add those files on as attachments to that list, or we could put them into a document library, or we could send them out in an email, and we'll do all of those things. So let's go into and apply to each. Do you know what? I want the run history quickly, because I want to see what the JSON looks like. So I'm just going to take a copy of that JSON and stick it over here so I know how to reference things. So let's now go into and apply to each. And the source of that will be all attachments. Now we'll do get file content and the unique identifier of the file. I'm going to rename this to each form attachment. And it's going to be current item, which is items each form attachment. So I'm going to use an expression, and I think it's ID. Yeah. Items each form attachment ID. I'm just going to keep that expression down here because I'm bound to need it again. And then I'm going to do a compose action. I'm just going to call that file. And then in my file, I'll do an opening curly bracket, a closing curly bracket. And I'll make a value called name. I'm going to copy this now and just put in name. And then I'm going to do, I forget now what the format should be, content bytes. So we'll do content bytes. And the output of that will be the output from get file content. And I can probably switch concurrency on. Don't need it because this is a quite small set of attachments. And now I am going to do one more compose action. And then I'm going to use the output of file. I'm going to peek that code and just copy that. Then I'm going to delete this. Now I'll add another compose outside of the loop. And I'm going to call this all attachments. Yeah, that's true. and then I'm going to put the outputs file. There's a little trick here. When you're in an apply to each loop, if you have a compose action, the outputs of that compose action will be available outside the loop, which you can collect here in an array. So we're using the information that we get in from forms into our all attachments array, which becomes the source for this apply to each. Then we can do a get file content on each file and grab that file content outside in all attachment data. So file does not have valid JSON. I've done something wrong there. Left a comma out. Rookie mistake. So let's save it now again and test it again and see what it looks like. And run that. Right, now it's worked. The attachment data, the outputs are too big to show in the flow designer, but if we click on it, we can see that it's kind of working. We've got the name, which we specified, and our content bytes, which has sub values of content type and $content. I'm just going to take that first chunk of that so that I don't forget the get what's there. So that's that $content. Yeah, that looks like valid JSON. I'm just going to check it. Nope. Okay, that's better. So this is just our little sample. I'm just keeping that there so I know, what's in each file. Now, it just so happens that the output, the way I've done it, is correct for the send an email action, or it should be. So let's test it. Send an email v2. Okay, and then here we have the attachments where we could add attachments in, and that just shows you that it's ready to accept an array. So we've got this button here, switch input to entire array, which we will do, and then we will use the dynamic content all attachment data. So let's save that. Okay, and now let's test it. And I should get that in an email. Okay, says it worked. Hasn't turned up yet. They are quite big attachments though. I should have used smaller attachments. And there it is. Okay, so that is email sorted. Let's stick a terminate action here so we can try out some other stuff. So let's, we have got over here a test site and a test document library. So we'll upload them to this document library. So if we go into each again, apply to each, and we'll use all attachment data as our source. And then we'll do create file, and then rename this each doc upload. New test site, and then test document library, and the file name is going to be, no, I don't want that. Each doc upload. Let's just peek the code on there. So the name will be each doc upload, and I think it's just the name. Let's check over here. Yep. And then the file content, this one is slightly trickier because this is base 64 content. So we need to do base 64 to binary. And then we need to supply our what is being converted to binary. And in this case, it is going to be content bytes. And then within content bytes, it's going to be $content. That should be it. Let's try it. Let's get rid of that. So here's our document library. It's now saved and we can test it. Oh no, what disaster. Oh no, it worked. I just didn't set my terminate to success. Well, it looks like it worked. Let's have a look. Yeah. There's the two files. That's all good. So let's get that terminate and make sure it's set to success. Right, so that is uploading to a document library, sorted and emailing. Let's put that down there. Now let's attach something to a list item. That was the other thing I was going to do. So we'll do create item in SharePoint. And then it will be our new test site again there. And then the list name is test list. Let me just make sure it's empty. Yep. And then the title is going to be, we'll use the question output from one of the questions. What sort of stuff are you uploading? And then we'll go each, apply to each, and we'll call this one each list item attachment. And so once again, our input array will be each form attachment. With this one array we can use for everything. And it's going to be add attachment. And then we'll use new test site, test list, ID will be the ID from create item. And then the file name, I will just do the same as I did before and use the current item. And I'll peek the code. So it's each list item attachment. And then it's going to be name. And the file content, again, we're going to go base 64 to binary. And then each attachment. And then it's going to be content bytes. And $content. Should work. Let's have a look. I done something wrong, didn't I? Let's have a look. I think we've got here as a case of bad spelling. Each list item attachment. Don't know. Each form attachment. Inputs of each list item attachment. Oh yeah. Don't know what I was thinking here. Can't have current item there. It needs to be all attachments. There. No, not all attachments there either. All attachment data. There. Okay. Let's see if that works. Right, so it says it worked. Let's have a look. There's our list items and there's our attachments. So, well, that works pretty good, doesn't it? Now, you know, I grant it seems complicated, but this first section, you could actually put that in a child flow and just use it to process all of your like an attachment processing flow, and it will just pull out everything from every form, all the attachments. But the beauty of it is if I go back to this form now and I add another question, and that is going to be a file upload. And we'll stick another one in and we'll say it's not required. And then I'll copy that again. All right, let's upload some more stuff. And then we'll pick that again. And then we'll pick our new field. And then submit it. So 2 have been left empty. And now I've got to do this question as well. Now in our flow, it's only currently creating the list item. So it's running at the moment. If we go back to our list, then we've got our attachment here. And as you can see, it has just worked. It's picked up the new question with the attachment in it and just dealt with it. And so that is why it makes it much easier, because no matter how many attachment fields you've got, it will just make you a nice array that contains the data for every attachment in the form without you having to reference those silly random key names. So I hope that has been helpful. I think those forms attachments are more tricky than they should be, but if you follow these steps, you should be able to deal with them very easily. The XPath stuff, you know, is a little bit tricky, but it's also very powerful. So see how you get on with that. If you get stuck, just ask in the comments, and I'm sure I or some other Cloper Clogs will help you out. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, have fun automating stuff. See you soon. Bye bye.